What would you do if you found out your promotion was meant for someone else? You ever had that feeling that something doesn't quite add up, but you can't put your finger on it? That's where this story begins. I'm Daniel. 34 years old. Mid-level project manager at a mid-sized tech consulting firm in Chicago. I've never been the smartest in the room, never the most connected, but I show up early, stay late, and I get things done. Always have. For 8 years, I played the long game, took extra tasks, mentored interns, stayed calm under pressure, even when the office coffee machine exploded the morning of our biggest pitch. That's who I was. Mr. Reliable. The guy you could trust. And last fall, my loyalty paid off. Or so I thought. I was promoted to senior project lead, a role I'd been gunning for since 2020. It came with a $12,000 salary bump, a corner cubicle with floor-to-ceiling windows, and best of all, a seat at the table. Leadership meetings. Strategy sessions. The good stuff. But about 3 weeks in, the shine started to wear off. It started with a weird vibe from Sophie, one of our project analysts and someone I'd worked with closely for years. She's smart, maybe too smart to be stuck in the position she was in. We were friendly, not friends, but I always thought we had a solid mutual respect. Except now she barely looked at me. Meetings? Radio silent. Emails? Short and clipped. I figured maybe she was going through something. Then came Cliff, my manager and the guy who pushed for my promotion. He stopped looping me into certain leadership threads and started taking over some of the high-profile accounts that were supposed to be under my portfolio. When I asked if everything was okay, he said, "Just trying to help you ease into the role. No need to stress, Daniel." Except, I wasn't stressed. I was confused. And that confusion turned into suspicion the morning I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. I walked into a conference room early and heard my name. And Sophie's. They were talking about us. Cliff and our director, Janice. Their voices dropped when I entered, but not fast enough. I distinctly heard Janice say, "You should have told her the truth, Cliff. It was her promotion." Her promotion? I played it cool. Pretended to grab a charger I didn't need and backed out. My heart was thudding so hard I thought they could hear it echoing in the hallway. Sophie was supposed to get my job. It hit me like a slap. And for a split second, I was ready to believe it was a misunderstanding. That maybe they meant something else. But deep down, I knew. I spent the rest of that day pretending everything was normal while running scenarios in my head. If she was supposed to get the role, what happened? Why me instead? And did Sophie know? Turns out, yes. She did. Later that evening, I stayed behind after everyone else had cleared out. I needed answers. Sophie was still at her desk, headphones on, eyes locked on her screen. I asked her directly, "Was this promotion meant for you?" She didn't deny it. She didn't even look surprised. "Yes," she said. "It was." Then she looked up and gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But Cliff said I wasn't palatable to the client board. Palatable? I asked what that meant. She hesitated, then said, "You know, too direct. Too aggressive. Not likable enough. Basically, not enough of a people pleaser." Cliff passed over Sophie, because she wasn't likable enough for the clients. That made my stomach turn. Because here's the kicker, Sophie was the one who trained me on half the systems I now managed. She was sharper, faster, and more data-driven than I'd ever be. And everyone knew it. But I was palatable. The safe choice. I wanted to be angry. But at who? I didn't ask for the promotion. I worked for it, yes, but not at her expense. At least not knowingly. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I confronted Cliff in his office. I asked him straight up, was Sophie supposed to get the promotion? He blinked, leaned back, and gave me that corporate half-grin managers use when they're deciding whether to lie to your face or gaslight you into oblivion. "Daniel. Sometimes we have to think beyond raw skill. You know that. Culture fit. Client comfort. Long-term viability. That's all I'll say." Cliff admitted it, but wrapped it in corporate nonsense. And then he had the nerve to end the conversation with, "Just keep doing good work. Don't get distracted." Distracted? I wasn't distracted, I was furious. Then things got worse. I got a strange email, sent by accident. It was a reply all from Cliff. He meant to forward a memo to Janice about reallocating project accounts, but instead, he sent it to the entire leadership group, including me. In it, he wrote, "Make sure Daniel stays happy. He's only a temporary patch. We'll revisit in Q2 if Sophie hasn't jumped ship." A temporary patch. I stared at the screen for a solid 5 minutes before I felt my hands move. I forwarded the email to myself, just in case it was deleted later. By noon, it was recalled. But too late. Sophie turned in her resignation 2 days later. No big scene. No public burn. Just a quiet exit. She cleared her desk at 7:30 a.m. and left me a post-it on my keyboard. They chose the safe option. "I'm not mad at you, Just done playing games. Good luck. That felt like a punch to the gut. Because even though I didn't ask for it, I became part of the system that pushed her out. A week after she left, one of Sophie's old clients requested her by name. Apparently, she'd built such strong rapport with them that they didn't know she'd left, and they weren't happy to find out. One of them, Arun, called me directly. Said he wanted to know where she went. I told him I didn't know. He said, "Shame. She was the only reason we renewed this contract." That's when I realized, Cliff didn't just push out someone qualified. He hurt the company to do it. And that gave me an idea. The minute I got off the call with Arun, I opened a blank document on my personal laptop. Title, Timeline of Events, Promotion Gate. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. But something about Cliff's smug confidence, that he's just a patch email, and Sophie walking out with her dignity intact, it all lit a fire in me. If the system rewarded playing safe and stepping over people, I had to decide, was I part of that system? Or was I going to do something about it? I started writing. Dates. Names. Emails. Meetings. Quotes. Things I'd heard. That email Cliff sent. The internal performance metrics Sophie beat me on. I built a dossier, like some twisted workplace detective. It didn't feel heroic. It felt risky. Paranoid, even. But something told me I wasn't the first person Cliff had sidelined. I wasn't. 3 days into my research, I found something in the HR portal. We had an anonymous exit survey system. Former employees could submit optional feedback, supposedly read only by senior HR. It wasn't public-facing. But through a search trick, don't ask how, I used to intern in IT, I found a cached version of Sophie's exit survey. She had filled it out. And what she wrote made my jaw drop. This company rewards compliance over competence. I was explicitly told to tone it down if I wanted leadership. I was passed over in favor of a less qualified male peer because he's seen as more client-friendly. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was discrimination hidden in a handshake. There it was. In black and white. Now it wasn't just about me. Or Sophie. It was a pattern. A choice. I still hadn't decided what to do, until a random moment at the office coffee station changed everything. I heard Cliff joking about me, to Janice. They didn't know I was behind the divider. Cliff said, if Hart figures out how out of his depth he is, we'll need a backup plan. Maybe bring in someone from ops. Janice laughed. Give him till Q2. The clients like him, and he doesn't ask too many questions. Unlike Sophie. I froze. Not only had they used me as a shield, but now they were lining up my replacement before it even had a chance to fail. So I did something bold. I filed a formal ethics complaint with HR. Not anonymously. Not halfway. Full name. Full documentation. Attached the email Cliff mistakenly sent. Attached quotes. Attached metrics. And I flagged Sophie's exit survey. I asked for the complaint to be reviewed at the executive level. Then I sat back. And waited. The response I got wasn't silence. It was a summons. Within 24 hours, I got a meeting invite from Alex Chang, the company's legal and ethics compliance officer. I'd never even met him before. His office was on the 32nd floor, 3 levels above mine. I felt like I was walking into a court deposition. The meeting lasted 45 minutes. Alex didn't smile. He didn't frown. He took notes. Asked clarifying questions. Asked if I had more evidence. I gave him everything. He told me I wasn't the first to file a complaint about Cliff. But I was the first to come with this much detailed backup. That changed things. 3 days later, Cliff was placed on administrative leave. Not fired. But not active either. An HR-wide email went out, citing ongoing investigation regarding internal ethics concerns. And just like that, the man who called me a temporary patch vanished from the office. Janice stepped in as interim manager. Her tone toward me shifted overnight. Suddenly, I was invited to every call. Every strategic brief. She even asked for my input in front of the VP. I wasn't being groomed for replacement anymore, I was being tested for Cliff's job. It was surreal. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because there was still one thing bugging me: where did Sophie go? I texted her. For the first time since she left. Me, hey. You were right. Cliff's on leave. HR opened an investigation. I used what I found. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. She replied 2 hours later. Sophie, good. And don't apologize. Just make sure they don't bury it. Then another text followed. Sophie, also, heads up. He's not the only one. Cliff wasn't acting alone. That sent a chill down my spine. I asked her what she meant. She sent me a PDF. Anonymized, but clearly from an internal thread of former employees. It was a collection of testimonials from 5 other women, across different departments, who'd experienced the same pattern. Different variations. Same outcome. Passed over. Labeled not a team player or too direct. Always outmaneuvered by someone less qualified but more safe. Some left quietly. Others were pushed. And guess whose name kept popping up? Janice. I didn't know what to do with that. I had just started gaining her trust. She was now praising me. Giving me high-profile projects. Acting like a mentor. And maybe, just maybe, I was being lined up to replace Cliff permanently. But if she was part of this? I needed to be sure. So I tested her. I created a mock proposal. One Sophie had started months ago for an automation tool that would have saved the team hundreds of hours a year. I submitted it as a revival of an old suggestion that I think has merit. Her reply? Daniel, this is a strong concept. Definitely better coming from you than its original author. Let's build on it. She acknowledged it came from Sophie, but preferred it now that it came from me. That confirmed it. She had played the same game. And now I was her new safe player. Now I was faced with a choice. Take the easy win. Stay silent. Rise the ranks. Or say something, again. I didn't know which was smarter. But I knew which one I'd be able to live with. I forwarded the testimonials Sophie sent me to Alex Chang, along with the exchange I just had with Janice. Subject line, pattern of discrimination, additional evidence. Then I waited. Again. 3 days. That's how long it took for the air in the office to shift from awkward silence to pointed stares. At first, I thought I was imagining it. People got quiet when I entered rooms. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Slack messages I used to get all day suddenly dried up. And then someone anonymously removed my name from the team lunch list. Small thing, right? But it was deliberate. I saw the Google Sheet history. My name was there, and then it wasn't. Word had gotten out that I filed a second complaint. And this time, people knew it wasn't just about Cliff. It was about Janice. And Janice? She didn't say a word to me for 3 straight days. No updates. No meetings. No calls. Then Friday came. At 4:45 p.m., 15 minutes before end of day, I got an email marked urgent. From HR. Subject line, scheduled review of allegations, urgent, confidential meeting. The meeting was in person. Monday morning. With HR. With legal. With Janice. She was fighting back. That weekend, I didn't sleep much. I kept checking my email, my phone, even my LinkedIn in case something broke publicly. I had this sinking feeling that I'd triggered something way bigger than I could control. Monday arrived, and I sat in the most sterile, corporate-smelling boardroom you can imagine. Across from me, Alex Chang, a junior HR rep named Brianna, and Janice, who looked calm, collected, and very rehearsed. Alex went first. Daniel, this is a follow-up on the materials you submitted regarding systemic bias and misconduct. We've reviewed the documents and have brought Janice here to respond directly to the information you provided. Janice nodded. And then she unleashed the twist I never saw coming. Janice said I was manipulating information to position myself as a whistleblower, while hiding my own bias. She claimed I had been selectively targeting leadership to create leverage. That I used private correspondence to paint myself as a savior. That my revived project wasn't reviving, it was stolen. She accused me of intellectual theft. And it was brilliant. Evil, but brilliant. Because technically, she was right. I had taken Sophie's idea and repackaged it to test her. I had used internal data in a way that bent some rules. And I had become the center of an ethics storm. HR placed me on investigative leave. Not terminated. But temporarily removed from duties. Pending review. I was escorted out with a box of my things like a criminal. The walk to the elevator felt longer than my entire career. When I got to my car, I sat in the parking garage and stared at the steering wheel for 10 minutes. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I was scared. Not of losing the job, but of the possibility that they'd bury the truth. That Sophie had left for nothing. That the others had spoken out only to vanish. I texted her again. I messed up. They flipped it on me. No reply. 2 days into my leave, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But I'm glad I did. It was Arun, the client Sophie used to manage. He said, "Hey, I heard what's happening. Janice tried to replace you with someone else. It didn't go well. Look, I want to help. But you need to see something." He sent me a video recording. A screen-captured Teams meeting. From 3 weeks prior. He had permission to record it because his firm requires it for certain discussions. It was Janice and another executive discussing Sophie's departure, and me. In the video, Janice openly admitted to passing over Sophie because clients preferred male leadership. Direct quote. She even said, "We needed someone more digestible for long-term retention." There it was. No ambiguity. No speculation. Just bias, on tape. I sent the video to Alex Chang with the subject line, "This changes everything." I also CC'd legal. Within 12 hours, I got a call. They asked me not to speak publicly. They said my status was under reconsideration. They thanked me for coming forward. I asked one question: will Janice be held accountable? Alex's voice was tight. This is now outside of internal HR. It's gone to external review. Which, in corporate speak, meant they were lawyering up. 2 days later, Janice resigned. No farewell party. No group email. Just an HR blast that said effective immediately. And Cliff? He was quietly let go a week after. I was reinstated. Fully. With an apology. Privately. No public statement. No justice banner. Just silence. They offered me Cliff's job. The one Janice and Cliff once joked I'd never keep. I turned it down. Not out of spite. But because I was done playing chess in a rigged game. Sophie started a consulting firm. 2 months later, she reached out. She said, "I'm building a company where competence is the culture. You in?" I said yes. Because after everything, after being a pawn, a whistleblower, and almost a scapegoat, I realized something. It wasn't just about the promotion. It was about proving the system could be challenged, even if it cost something. Working with Sophie again felt like coming up for air after years underwater. Her new consulting firm was small, just her, me, and one other person she brought in, Nina, a former strategist from our old company who quietly exited last year. At the time, I thought she'd left for a better salary. Turns out, she left after Cliff took credit for her data model during a board review. The stories were endless. Cliff and Janice hadn't just managed up, they'd built a culture of silent sabotage. We weren't just running a consulting firm. We were building something cleaner. Real. Safe. Or so I thought. 3 months into the new job, I got a forwarded email from an anonymous address. It was an old internal message, sent while I was on investigative leave. The sender? Nina. The recipient? Janice. It read, "Let me know if you need additional statements to help protect the company's image. I can draft something that casts Daniel as emotionally unstable if needed." My hands froze on the keyboard. I reread it 5 times. This was Nina. The woman Sophie trusted. The person now managing our financial clients. Someone I had Zoom calls with 3 times a week. Nina had offered to help Janice discredit me. Now I understood how Janice had moved so fast. Why HR turned on me so quickly. Nina had greased the wheels. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell Sophie? Should I confront Nina directly? Should I quit? I paced for a while. Then I did something I never thought I'd do again. I called Arun. He listened quietly, then said, "You already know what you need to do. The question is, do you want a company built on truth or comfort?" It wasn't just about Sophie anymore. It was about all of us who left that toxic culture behind. I told Sophie. I showed her the email. Watched her reaction. Her shoulders dropped. She closed her laptop. Then she whispered, "I had a feeling." She always knew too much about the internal case, but said she just had friends in HR. Sophie fired Nina the next morning. No drama. Just a signed NDA, a revoked login, and a quiet final check. We lost a major account in the process. Nina had been handling them. But Sophie and I decided, no success was worth repeating what we'd escaped. Nina retaliated, by leaking internal documents to a competitor. Our financial projections. Client roadmaps. One of our pitch decks appeared, verbatim, in a rival firm's proposal. It was messy. We considered legal action, but the trail was too murky, and her NDA was loosely worded. We took the hit and moved on. But it taught us something: even when you break out of a toxic system, its fingerprints linger. Fast forward 1 year. The firm's thriving. Sophie's name is becoming known. I've built new client relationships, on transparency this time. I sleep better. I smile more. I trust again. But I'll never forget the feeling I had that day in the conference room, hearing the words, "It was her promotion." That moment fractured something in me. And in rebuilding, I learned the most painful truth of all. Sometimes, your worst enemies aren't the ones who sabotage you outright. They're the ones who smile while doing it quietly. So, if you're still listening, maybe you're going through something like this yourself. A workplace where you feel overlooked. Gaslit. Used as a safe option instead of a respected one. Let me leave you with this. Ask the hard questions. Document everything. Speak up, even when it shakes your foundation. Because yes, it might cost you. But silence costs more. If you've made it this far, thank you. If this story stirred something in you, or reminded you of your own past, know that you're not alone. Everyone has a journey, and sometimes, the hardest parts lead to the most important truths. Feel free to share your story in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, human, subscribe to Family Stories. We're here to share, to listen, and to grow. Until next time.